Exodus chapter 5 verse 1. Afterward Moses and Aaron went and said to Pharaoh, "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, let my people go, that they may hold a feast to me in the wilderness." Okay, so so Moses and Aaron went now to Pharaoh to see Pharaoh, the new Pharaoh, right? So most likely, again, this Pharaoh would have known something about Moses, and at the same time, he could have expected some other political intrigue here. It's kind of normal after the death of the previous Pharaoh. Now this Moses guy who grew up in the palace, he would have known the story, is back, and this guy is now maybe trying to overthrow my authority here or something, right? This is kind of would have been a normal thought, depending on the kind of Pharaoh he was. Now we see from his action he was not the best of pharaohs either, or best of guys. He was a very pragmatist. And so, sure, he was not going to like this. It all could have looked very fishy for him. So in their words, ultimately then to Pharaoh, was that God told him to let the people go. Okay, and at the same time, the reason is to go and hold a feast in the wilderness. Now that would have been kind of normal for people to hold feasts to their gods, and the Hebrews haven't done this in a long time. You could maybe expect that some of the time, they would like to do it, even let the slaves go to now and then worship their God kind of idea, keep them happy. But Pharaoh's not going to have any of that. Now, this is what God told Moses to say. The 3 days journey was added. They don't add the word 3 days journey here, right? It's just a feast in the wilderness. No specifications at all. But this is the words of God. Now again, I explained in the teaching already that this is not God lying here or anything like this. It's ultimately going to prove to Moses that it doesn't matter what he tells Pharaoh. It doesn't matter what he asks for. If he only asks for 1 cup of salt or something like that, Pharaoh's not going to give him. So even if he asks just for a small thing, or just do a kind of a normal thing for them to go out and worship their God out there in the wilderness and come back and continue the work, no way. So if Pharaoh's not going to allow for that, then there's absolutely no way that Pharaoh would allow them to leave permanently. No way, if not for God. The other thing, just as we see that it seems as if both Moses and Aaron are speaking, but we know by now the spokesman is Aaron, right? Aaron spoke as God, as Moses told him. So as Moses was like a God to him. Verse 2. But Pharaoh said, "Who is the Lord? Who that I should obey his voice and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and moreover, I will not let Israel go." Okay, so Pharaoh's reaction to this is, "I don't know your God." Right? So who is this guy to come and, your God to come and tell me? Since you're enslaved by me, that means my gods are bigger than your gods, right? That's their logic of the day. Wrong logic, understandably, as God is going to prove to Pharaoh over and over and over again. But it doesn't matter who would have come. Pharaoh did not want, for very simple reasons, political reasons, economical reasons, letting them go. Who's going to do all the building for free? I've spoken about this a umpteenth time by now. I don't want to go over this whole thing again, right? Of how so many countries exist because of basically slave labor. Refugees living there illegally, doing all the building work, etc., etc. I'm not going to go over that again. So, you would. It's a very valid economical question, and so he's not just going to. He needed kind of proof, which kind of makes sense. Now God's going to give more than proof to him, and after a few things, he ought to have let them go. But, well, that's another question. And so, who is this God? I don't know this God. I don't know this Lord of yours. Again, that ought to... I don't think it's totally true. Because these guys kind of knew about. They had to know about the different gods of these people. So that, it's like, I don't worship other gods but God. But I know about what other people believe, other faiths believe, be it Hindus, Muslims, Buddhists, atheists, or the atheists again will say that they don't believe in anything, but other people, animists. So understandably, I need to know this. So where they're right, where they're wrong, where we can learn something from them because of general grace, where there's absolutely nothing to learn from these cultures or these religions or whatever. Okay, so yeah, I mean, Pharaoh ought to, if he himself, he would have been brought up in the difference. So he most likely knew something, but he's not going to admit to the fact that he knows something, because then he had to do something about that, and he didn't want to do anything about that. So he was just, no, I don't know. Who is this God? I don't know anything about this God. In the introduction, they explain this. Compare that to the way the Pharisees there in the Gospel of John was like, we know is our Father. Right, Abram, ultimately they went all the way up to God. We know, and we don't know who is yours, right? And but they didn't know. They claimed to know, but they didn't know. Yeah, at least Pharaoh most likely knew something, but he didn't want to know, so he claimed to not know. At least I think in that sense he's more honest than although there's still some lie in it, than that the Jews were later on.